India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and the Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong held the 14th Foreign Ministerial Framework Dialogue in New Delhi on Tuesday. Under this framework, the two sides took stock of bilateral cooperation under the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, and they exchanged views on regional and global issues of mutual interest. Dr. Jaishankar stressed that the framework dialogue will advance the strategic partnership. And the Australian Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles and the Foreign Minister Penny Wong met the National Security Advisor of India, Ajit Doval, in New Delhi. The two sides discussed a range of issues, including global and regional developments, as well as bilateral and security and defense matters. The two sides emphasized the need to assist countries in the Indo-Pacific, ASEAN, Africa, the Global South, and the Pacific Islands to take forward their development trajectories in line with their priorities and in a sustainable manner. Our correspondent Amritpal Singh has been following these stories. He's joining us on the phone line. Amrit, put this into context for us. The 2+2 yesterday, today the 14th Foreign Ministerial Framework Dialogue. How different are the two?
Well, the Foreign Ministers' Framework Dialogue essentially looks at the foreign policy issues and the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries. So both Dr. Jaishankar and Ms. Wong reviewed the relationship in terms of defense, security, trade ties, in fact, the entire gamut of relationship, Mark. And they reviewed the progress made in the bilateral relationship. They looked at the aspects of cooperation, widening the developmental cooperation, the trade cooperation, and also looked at the impact that the relationship would have on the region and the wider world. So Indo-Pacific was much in focus because this comes right before the Quad meeting happens in January this year. Also, SICA was on the table, the comprehensive agreement on economic cooperation agreement, which both Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Anthony Albanese have expressed their desire to conclude it at the earliest. The negotiations are at the advanced stage right now. So it is expected that if all negotiations conclude by the end of next, and when Prime Minister Albanese comes calling on New Delhi, the two principals could sign it. Apart from that, Mark, of course, global conflicts, including the Israel-Hamas conflict, was on the table when the two leaders met. In fact, they're right now also in a meeting which has been extended by half an hour more than it was scheduled. Mark.
Sure. Amrit, the two sides already have an economic cooperation agreement. It's called ECTA, and it had come into effect in December of 2022, just recently. So what more negotiations are required in this economic space?
Mark, the ECTA was seen as was a big breakthrough when it happened. It was seen as an interim trade agreement, because both sides are seeking more duty-free access to each other's markets. For the Indians, for example, critical minerals, rare earth minerals are of great importance because of the boost it could give to defense production in the country. The same way, the Australians are looking at more access to India's agriculture market, India's wine market. So, a negotiation on how tariffs can be further reduced, or if they can work towards zero tariffs. If, what we are told is that the negotiation on SICA would mean about 90%, access to zero tariff to about 90% of trade lines to Australia for India. And for the Australians, a tariff-free access to about 70% of the trade lines. Now, that would give a huge boost to the economic ties and trade and investment between the two countries. So this is what they're attempting. Right now, they have access to, under the ACTA, to about 50% of our trade lines, and we have access to about 70% of the trade lines. So basically, it's going to be an enhanced ACTA, if we can, in a manner of speaking, where they are looking at complete access or near complete access to each other's trade lands.
Amrit, also we understand that both countries are members of Quad and their priorities align as far as that's concerned in the Indo-Pacific. But when we look at, issues like the Global South, for instance, India has become vocal for the Global South. Also the Pacific Islands, like the Solomon Islands and things like that, to bring them into more inclusive growth. How do the two countries work together in these areas? Amrit? We don't seem to have Amrit on the line. Call drop, I suppose. Let's move on to our next story. Amrit is on the line. Amrit, are you with us?